Greetings, Ascending Masters. This is the Divine Alchemist checking in. Before I begin today, I do want to take time and thank everyone for sharing your time with me. If you are enjoying this content, please make sure that you click the like button, click the share button, subscribe to the channel, and let people know about this information so that we can help people ascend to where they need to go. All right, so today, what I'd like to talk about is resistance of the mind. Now, resistance of the mind is a topic that is rarely spoken about, but it is an essential part of your ascension in this life that we're having on earth, in this life experience. I know we always talk about meditating, we talk about affirmations, visualizing, goals, all of those great things. All of that is still good stuff, but I have to let you know that if you're not taking the time to actually deal with the resistance or even understand the resistance, then you are definitely going nowhere fast, because this is what typically pauses most people in their tracks, on their path. So this is something important. Definitely get your notepad out, get your pen, because I'm going to drop some jewels for you today. So let's go ahead and get started. What is resistance of the mind? Okay. First of all, that's something hard to even define, but the best definition that I've found is an unconscious unwillingness to open your awareness to your inner truth. I'm going to say that again. Resistance of the mind is an unconscious unwillingness to open your awareness to your inner truth. Now, what that means is we are hidden participants in our own emotional, behavioral, and mental challenges sometimes. So to put it in layman's terms, resistance is basically you holding yourself back from your own goals. So it's that part of you that is stopping you from being the greatest version of yourself. That's what resistance is, just to make it simple. So I know I mentioned it, and I know that that's a lot, so I'm going to break it down a little bit when I said we are hidden participants in our own troubles here. So what are we actually participants in? Basically, we're participants in self-sabotage. And self-sabotage is you just not doing the work to the best of your ability, but still expecting to receive the best results. So to give a quick example of that, I can't go outside, wash my car, do it quickly, not pay attention, not take every step, just wash my car real quick in 15 minutes because it's dirty, and then expect it to be shining. That's not realistic. I can't just do the bare minimum and get the best results. Will my car be more clean than it was when I started? Absolutely. Will it be in a better position than when I started? It sure will. But will I have the best results that I'm searching for, or will I have that curb appeal that I was looking for, that I deserve for spending the time to wash my car? Absolutely not, because you didn't put the work in. And that's pretty much what the self-sabotage is. Now, what happens is, remember, we do live in an energetic world. So what we're doing is creating an uneven energy exchange. And the way we do that is by focusing on the wrong thing. So a lot of times it's not intentional. Most of us do start our day with the intention to get our goals done. But then life happens, life starts lifing, and we end up focusing on other things. And we focus on the wrong things. And sometimes it may not even be just something that is a part of your process. It might just be something random. Like, let's just say you are looking to create a book. Your goal is to write a book. You've broken down your steps and you're ready to start writing the book. But next thing you know, your phone rings. So you take the phone call. And now it's your friend telling you to look on social media. So now you're scrolling on social media. Now you've been on TikTok for an hour. And now that was the hour that you allotted for your time to write your book. And you have something else scheduled after that. So you get behind. Now you're getting down on yourself. You're like, man, I was supposed to do that, but I didn't do it. And then it's just a whole spiral into the wrong direction. But we have to look at, how did we even start in that space? How do we even get on a down path? And, that's what I want to focus on now, is just understanding where does resistance actually come from? Well, resistance basically comes from the old you. You know, a lot of people would say it's your child self, but it's not always, your child self. Sometimes it may just be a version of you that you've outgrown. It may be from a year ago, it may be from a month ago, but it's a version of you from the past that's holding you back from actually accomplishing your goals. Because we have to look at the fact in this example of writing a book that you knew you shouldn't have took that phone call in the first place. So even though you can say, the rational mind might say, my friend threw me off, got me on TikTok, and now I spent the hour on TikTok when I should have been, doing something else like writing my book. Now, in that scenario, you're definitely not taking 100% responsibility for your life, and you are passing off the blame. But once you start to accept your life and you start to accept 100% responsibility for your life, then you would go deeper with your questions. And the question you would ask yourself in that situation is, well, why did I even take the call? Why wasn't my phone on Do Not Disturb? And you got to look deep within yourself to find the answer to that question. So essentially what it usually is it's your past self trying to protect your future self from a problem that is now irrelevant, to be honest. I mean, it could be a problem that you had in the past that you've overcome, but your subconscious mind hasn't overcome it yet. So one thing that we do have to understand is the resistance that shows up in our lives, typically it does have good intentions. However, the thing about it is you have more experience and you no longer need protection from the things that your resistance is trying to protect you from. So I know that's a lot, so I'm going to just go ahead and give another example just to explain this a little bit better. So let's just say your goal is you want to lose weight. You've been, getting overweight, having unhealthy eating habits for a few years, and then you've decided today is the day. I'm sick of it. I want to get healthy. I'm going to prioritize my health, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to lose some weight. Now, for some reason, you're having trouble. You're a month in, you haven't lost any weight, and you're like, what's going on? You've been trying to change your eating habits, all of these things, but you're still having trouble. So in this example, let's look at, where this problem may have started. So you sit down, you ask yourself, like, what's going on? Why am I not losing weight? What's happening? And then as you tap into yourself, you start to realize as a child, one day you got in big trouble for not clearing your plate. So, you had some vegetables on your plate, whatever the case may be. You decided you didn't want to eat them. Maybe you were full, maybe you didn't want it. Maybe it was a combination of both of those things. But for whatever reason, you got in trouble for not finishing your plate. So now, when you got in trouble, you're like, man, you had to go to bed early. Summertime, you can hear the kids outside playing, everybody's having fun. They asking where you are. You in the house in the bed because you didn't want to eat your vegetables, right? So now you're telling yourself, I don't want to feel this. This was not a good feeling. All of my friends are outside having a good time. I'm in the house and I'm in the bed, all because I didn't want to eat my vegetables. And your mother may have told you, you got to finish your plate before you can go outside. So now, because of this, you have decided, I'm going to always finish my plate no matter what. This is a decision that you made at 6 years old. I'm going to always finish my plate no matter what. Now, in that scenario, you were protecting yourself from the pain of not being able to go outside with your friends. You made a decision consciously to decide that you would no longer allow that to happen, and moving forward, you will be outside with your friends. But the thing about this is when we create thoughts, they get stored in our subconscious mind. These thoughts become habits, and they stay with us for our entire lives until we reprogram the thought and add in a new one. So fast forward 20 years later, now you're overweight because you've never not finished your plate since you were 6 years old. No matter how hungry you are, how full you are, it's not even about that anymore. It's about the habit of finishing your plate so that you can go outside. But the reality is now you're a grown adult. You don't need permission to go outside. It's your decision if you want to finish your food. It's your decision if you're full. So when we go through something like this, and all of us have been through it, this is just an example I'm using. Now at, an adult age, 26-year-old, however old you are, now you're still finishing your plate while you're actually full. While you're done eating, you're still eating past that point. So in order to overcome this, we first have to go back to that place and understand why we're making that decision. Once we understand that we were making that decision, there's still a version of you making that decision every day. So you tap in with yourself and you're like, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we still finishing everything on our plate? And yourself is like, well, that's just what we do to keep ourselves from being able to go outside. And you're like, hey, we're grown now. We don't no longer need that. And, you can tap into this energy and you can really just decide, hey, we no longer need this. It's not relevant for us to finish our plate to go outside anymore. And now, your subconscious mind is like, that's a new program. So now we don't have to finish our plate. Well, how are we going to replace this program? And you replace it with, I stop eating when I am full. Now, it's going to take some time for this new program to get put into your subconscious mind and override that old one. But once you are able to identify that old program, replace it with a new one, and act on a new one, eventually this will become ingrained in your mind. And once you're able to actually put that new idea into place, well, now you can lose all the weight that you want because you don't have the limiting belief holding you back from losing weight that you didn't even realize was affecting you losing weight. So I think that's a good example of, how resistance works. So now that we understand it, we understand where it comes from, how do we overcome the resistance of the mind? So I got 3 simple steps to help you out with that. So if you're taking notes, this is a good time to jot it down. The first step is to tap in within yourself and figure out what you're protecting yourself from. Now, it's very clear in this example for the kid, he's protecting himself from having to stay in a house and missing out on fun. Now, you do have to determine what you're afraid of and why you're afraid of it. So you got to ask yourself the hard questions. And this can take some time. It may be layers and layers and layers of experiences built up on this. Or this could be something that happened when you were a child. Or it could be something that just happened years ago. We have so much life happening every day that, we can bury a lot of these instances. So it's important to give yourself time when trying to tap in with yourself and figure out, what you're protecting yourself from. So do some meditation, take your time, ask the questions. You'll get the answers if you are persistent with it. Now, once you figure out the source of this challenge, the next step is to acknowledge it. You bring it from the unconscious mind to the conscious mind, and you accept it. You accept the presence of this idea. Do not fight against it. I can't stress that enough. You don't want to fight it. You just want to accept it as a part of you, because remember, this is something that's trying to protect you. It's still you trying to help you. So you don't want to fight yourself. You don't want to bash yourself. You don't want to shame yourself. It's almost like stepping in quicksand. The more you fight against quicksand, the quicker you're going to go down. So you have to just accept and acknowledge the problem. Like, this is the thought. This is the limiting belief. I understand why I was doing this, because I was trying to protect myself. It's not because I'm afraid of success or anything crazy like that. I was just trying to protect myself from an outdated need. Now, once we acknowledge this, now this is when we can accept it and we can go ahead and create harmony, because ultimately that's going to be your goal, is to create harmony within yourself. So you want to actually get past those old limiting beliefs and get yourself on the same page. Make sure that your subconscious mind is aligned with your conscious mind, and make sure that you are in agreement of understanding. That was a great command when I was 6 years old, I appreciate you for doing that. However, it's outdated. We no longer need it. And we need to move on to some new commands that are going to help us in our lives. And this is really an ongoing process. You know, you're going to start seeing resistance as you raise your levels of consciousness and you pay more attention to the things happening in your life. You're definitely going to start seeing the resistance around things, because once you bring awareness to things, you start to see it a little bit easier. So your first experience overcoming resistance will definitely be harder than your fifth experience overcoming resistance, now that you understand how it works. Because the thing about it is, most people will tell you to fight it. Like, there's plenty of books about fighting against, your shadow and your resistance, or whatever you want to call it, just fighting against the part of yourself that is not serving you to the best of its ability. And fighting against it is going to always leave you fighting yourself and in a poor position to not win. So yeah, people are going to tell you that you're afraid of success and things of that nature, but that's not hardly it. What you're afraid of is a penalty for something that is actually irrelevant to your life right now. So I'm going to say that again. The thing that you're afraid of is actually a penalty for something that's no longer relevant in your life. It's something that you've grown past, and now the protection is no longer serving you. Now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up shortly, but another thing I do want to touch on that's synonymous with resistance is becoming overwhelmed. Now, becoming overwhelmed, it actually comes from focusing on the wrong things. And I do want to say that most resistance does come from the past, but we do need to be careful because it can hit us from both ways. So the thing about being overwhelmed is, like I said, you're focusing on the wrong things, and I'll give you an example of it. So it's important to create a vision, an end goal, and be clear where you're going. That is super important. That's like step one. However, once you create that vision, you create that end goal, the only thing you should be focused on is the next step in front of you. You can list out your steps and you can, organize it and do it day by day as recommended, but don't look at day 9 on day 1. Don't look at the steps that are coming in 10 days when you're still focusing on the steps in day 1. That's where being overwhelmed comes from. It's from focusing on the wrong parts. You're focusing on the journey and not the next step. I mean, if you think about it, no one would ever accomplish anything if they spent the whole journey focusing on the whole journey. That's taken away from your life. That's taken away from the people in your life, your experiences. It's just going to leave you overwhelmed and in a strange place, because all you're thinking about is the middle part of the bigger picture, when the only thing you need to see is the end result and the next step. Obviously you want to be organized and set your steps up day by day, but do all you can do that day. Do it to the best of your ability. And as long as you do it to the best of your ability, be happy with it. Trust yourself, trust the universe, trust that everything is aligning for your greater good. If you fully believe in that purpose and you fully understand what you're trying to accomplish and you see it as already accomplished, then it is already accomplished as long as you do what you're supposed to do. So all you have to do is focus on that one step. Now, overwhelming is another topic, but I'll get into that on a later episode. But today I want to just go ahead and wrap it up. But most resistance does come from the past. And like I said, we got to be careful and make sure that we are understanding the resistance, not fighting it, and making sure that we allow it to show up as what it actually is and overcome it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Once again, I want to thank you guys for your time, for listening. And if you did enjoy this video, make sure you like it. If you want to hear more content from me, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share this with your friends. Make sure that you let everybody know that you like the content. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with this. This is a Divine Alchemist checking out. And remember, don't let anything hold you back, not even yourself.